Hey guys, interesting news from Italy today, from Campi Flegrei. So we have things escalating at the Brady seism. We have a new earthquake swarm that keeps going while we speak, with the highest one 3.2. But we also have new alert levels. Kind of crazy. And we have a new bulletin that also gives us new information, but new alert levels. You know, is this just a tool to not increase the alert level like on every other volcano, from green to yellow to orange to red? We're at yellow with Campi Flegrei, as you can see behind me, and it should be at orange if we look what has happened just recently. Scientists have demanded that already at the end of 2023, and then it got even worse in May 2024, and since then the land keeps rising. So they came up with a interesting idea, just releasing this now parallel to the bulletin that says land rise is increasing, levels are increasing, accelerating. I'll show you very soon how, but let's start with the alert levels first, guys, because this Campi Flegrei supervolcano in Italy near Naples, with more than 6 million people, is getting more dangerous. And we have to talk again to understand what is happening. That magma chamber, the magma that is building up beneath the surface of Campi Flegrei, that stretches around 100 kilometers, also into the Gulf of Pazzuli. And scientists have located that magma source very shallow, roughly 3.9 kilometers. So they have found a direct evidence that there is a so-called hot zone feeding the supervolcano in southern Italy. And experts are saying, and have been saying for quite a while, that it is nearing eruption conditions. Doesn't mean it has to erupt immediately, but it is nearing, creeping towards an eruption. Everything's in place so that the volcano could do that. Could be a phreatic eruption, doesn't need to be a supervolcanic eruption. But this volcanic caldera of Campi Flegrei to the west of Naples has erupted quite a few times, and there are also scary new findings that we should keep in mind when I tell you what I'm about to tell in this video, because we know the area had been relatively quiet since the 1980s, when there was a magma intrusion, so injection of magma or fluids, but probably magma, in the shallower structure of the volcano, and that also has caused a series of small earthquakes. And they could now pinpoint the location of the hot zone where these hot materials did rise and how they are feeding the caldera. So there is this hot zone, how they call it, underneath Pazzuli at a depth of around 3.9 to 4 kilometers. And it makes sense, because this is where we have the most land rise and the most epicenters of the most earthquakes. And this is where we also see the current increased land rise. So the latest bulletin, you see the graph behind me, shows that we have most likely an accelerated rate. So it's now rising with 1.5 centimeters per month. It used to be 1 centimeter. We only had an increase last year around the time when we had this massive earthquakes, the 4.4. It was for about 6 weeks. It was rising at a rate of 2 centimeters per month. And now it has accelerated again. That is not good. And we're still seeing these earthquakes in the higher ranges. So look at that graph, the blue lines, you see how this has accelerated upwards. So the magma that is accumulating most likely right underneath the Pazzuli, where the Solfatara is, could be magma, could be fluid-filled, heated fluid from the hydrothermal system on top of a even bigger magma chamber. So everything's possible, although they're pretty sure that it is magma. But we could have an even deeper magma chamber that is feeding that as well. And the scientists are saying that magma that we're seeing here was prevented from reaching the surface in the 1980s event by the presence of probably a deep rock formation that is 1 to 2 kilometers thick, that has blocked the magma's path and has forced the magma to release stress along the lateral route. So a magma intrusion. Magma was on the way. It was getting out of that magma chamber. And this is the cap rock layer. And I've told you about another study that now that cap rock layer has only a third of the strength that it has when it was holding back the magma in the 1980s. This is another concerning fact that is telling the scientists it could get easier and easier for the magma to reach the surface. And they're saying between the current unrest and the 1980s arrest, there was relatively low amounts of seismic activity. And the scientists conclude that this is a sign that pressure was building up within the caldera and that this has made it more dangerous. They're saying that during the last 30 years, the behavior of the volcano has changed, with everything becoming hotter due to fluids that are permeating the whole caldera. And we will see this also in the bulletin. I'll quickly want to show you the results of the bulletin so that you understand what that really means. So during the last week, they have gathered continuous monitoring data from the geochemical network. They say it's not significant variations, it's still increasing. And the data confirm that the ongoing warming and pressurization trends of the hydrothermal system, as well as an increase in the emission of fluids, is happening there right now. It's accelerating and it's increasing. And they're saying in the Peschiarelli area, that's the northeastern outer slope of the Solfatara, that has exhibited the most significant degassing variations in recent years. The CO2 flux from the ground was continuously recorded by their measuring station there, and it's steadily increasing. They also continue to measure the temperature at these fumaroles. So average temperature last week was roughly 96 degrees Celsius, so hasn't increased significantly. But the CO2 flow data from the ground in the Peschiarelli area, and they have these stations in place since 2022, and over the past few months, these data indicate a moderate increase in values, and you also see it on the graph there. And I've reported about this, that they have this gas now in basement, in lower lying areas, not only in Pozzuoli, also in broader areas in Naples, and it's a problem right now. But now that you've seen these graphs, you understand that it is developing. That's why the scientists are saying it's creeping towards eruption. And the scientists are saying, well, whatever has produced this intense activity under Pozzuoli in the 1980s has migrated somewhere else. So the danger doesn't just lie in the same spot, and that's new. It could now be much nearer to Naples. Bang, guys. Oh, I can't really hit my hand, my finger. My channel members know what happened again. So migrating towards Naples, which is even more densely populated than Pozzuoli. And the whole supervolcano is highly densely populated. They have apartment complexes that have basically the Solfatara as their front yard. And they want to build even more commercial buildings right there, including a hotel. So what does that mean exactly? This means, according to the scientists, quote, this means that the risk from the caldera is no longer just in the center of the caldera. It has migrated. That is scary news, guys. Because think about their latest evacuation plans. They're highly focused around Peschiarelli, Pozzuoli, Solfatara. This is the red zone with 500 to 700,000 people. But if this thing has migrated towards Naples, have they even considered that in their plans? They made these new plans last year, in fall of last year, when they were so heavily under pressure from scientists that, by the way, said, can we at least evacuate the red zone? And they have been saying this since 2023, and it hasn't happened yet. And in that context, we have to look at what they're doing with these alert levels. So magma could be closer towards Naples. So they're saying, quote, again, indeed, you can now characterize Campi Flegrei as being like a boiling pot of soup beneath the surface. What this means in terms of the scale of a future eruption, we cannot say. That's what the scientists are saying. But they're saying, quote, again, there is no doubt that the volcano is becoming more dangerous. The big question we have to answer now is if it is a big layer of magma that's rising to the surface, or something which less worrying, which could find its way to the surface, maybe out at the sea. But that could cause a tsunami for the coast of Naples. So that is kind of scary, guys. And now let's listen to the news with the alert levels that they came up. So the normal alert levels for a volcano that we have are outlined here in this graphic. From green to yellow to orange and red, this is basically like, whoa, it's exploding. So now they have increased the number of alert levels from 4 levels to 6 levels. So this gives them more wiggle room to avoid full evacuations, full panic, full commercial losses, full tourist losses. We know in Santorini that earthquake swarm hasn't done Santorini any good. If you're following my channel, if not, check out the videos. What's going on there? 34% reduction in bookings. No cruise ships, whole March and April. So the Major Risk Commission has met for 2 days in Rome with all the scientists from the INGV, Vesuvius Observatory, Civil Protection, yada, yada, yada. Why did they have to go to Rome for this? I don't know. But they came up with 6 alert levels instead of 4 for the eruption risk levels of Campi Flegrei. So this meeting was not about the earthquakes. It was really about the volcanic risk. And they want to have new operational actions of the civil protection. So what does that mean specifically? So we could see the levels go from 4 to 6. These 2 new levels would be an addition. They would be 2 intermediate categories. And I reported about this yesterday when they said, well, we could have a somewhat like yellow-orange level, which would mean not like orange level, evacuate the red zone. It would mean like just evacuate the hospital. I said it yesterday, that doesn't make too much sense. So now they're coming up with light, dark yellow, and light and dark orange. So they're attaching 2 levels, 1 to yellow and 1 to orange. These are just hypothetical names. They might name them differently. So with these colors, they want to indicate the greater or the lesser possibility of an eruption, and take into account, they're saying, various parameters of this bradyseism. Bradyseism is the whole thing that's happening, like the earthquakes, the ground uplift, the gas emissions, and the temperatures of the fumaroles. So they are saying, as an explanation why they have these levels, based on the indications of scientists, the National Civil Protection has classified in recent years the alert levels on 4 categories of danger threshold, like most other volcanoes around the world. Green is normal, yellow is attention, orange is like pre-alarm, and red is alarm. If it's red, it's almost too late, right? The pre-alarm and alarm phases are declared by the President of the Council of Ministers, and they provide for the evacuation of the population within 72 hours. And we know that the magma that is underneath the surface is already in a highly explosive state. So that's why the INGV scientists have said we could have very, very little warning. So 72 hours, that is unlikely. And now that we know it could migrate more towards Naples, it could be complete chaos, because a potential eruption, and even if it's a small one, comes with earthquakes. And they're also not prepared for that yet. They need to upgrade structures, make evacuation routes safer. So for about 12 years, the alert level for the risk of eruption has been set at yellow, hasn't been at green for 12 years. I mean, the current seismic crisis, the Brady seismic crisis, started as early as in 2005 when the land started to rise again. But they're saying this classification seems no longer sufficient from the point of view of the evolutionary history of the volcano. In all these 12 years, the volcano has not remained in its initial condition when the alert level was raised to yellow at first. It has further escalated since then. They're saying, well, also, not only the volcano has changed, also the activities of the civil protection or the civil protection system are no longer the same as back 12 years ago. So they say that at the moment, however, it is not in a condition such as to define an orange level. And quite a few scientists disagree with this. Orange level would mean evacuate the red zone. So that's why they want these new classifications of the alert levels. And they're stressing that Campi Flegrei is one of the most monitored volcanoes in the world. And yes, it is. But the scientists said, well, if you hear the officials say it's closely monitored, that does not guarantee safety at all. And that's true. So they're saying today they will write their final reports, and that this was a technical meeting to validate, to direct, and to propose the work that needs to be done on the redefinition of the alert levels. And then once this study, it seems like they need another study, is concluded, it will have to be the subject of a formal act, such as a decree from the head of the Civil Protection Department or the government. And then that raises the question, so will they meet again on that same topic? And that is not ruled out. But for now, they haven't scheduled any other sessions. So it seems this is a bureaucratic thing that's going on there. And it sounds like not much is happening in the near future. It seems they will not increase any alert level because they haven't even agreed on or have worked out these two additional levels. So it sounds to me we will not hear in the next 2 days or 4 days or week or whatever, we increase it to like dark yellow. So dark yellow sounds better as what they said yesterday, yellow orange, right? And the dark orange basically means orange red. So I know they're having a hard time because this has big implications. And of course, residents are angry if they have to evacuate and then nothing happens. But better be safe than sorry. I know it's hard. It's really, really hard. But it doesn't sound like we have sufficient results right now that would satisfy the needs of quite a few scientists that work for the INGV and Vesuvius Observatory in leading roles that said, let's evacuate the red zone. Because yeah, that massive earthquake swarm where we had these seismic bursts, like so many earthquakes in a short second time frame after the other, it's continuing. Look at the current list here. On March 7th, 0.8, 1.4, 1.0, 1.3, 1.0, 1.9, 3.2, and the day before, the 6th, ended with a 2.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.8. So every day we see more earthquakes, and on the 7th, we already have more earthquakes than the day before. So, and the higher magnitudes. So it remains interesting and remains to be seen what they will do. I will definitely keep you updated, guys. Check out all my other videos about Campi Flegrei, but also Mount Teide in Tenerife in Spain or Santorini in Greece. I have very, very interesting news for you on that. That'll be my next video after that. So if you're new here, subscribe, click the notification bell. Thanks for that, guys. If you want to support the channel any further, become a supporting member of the channel. I have 2 membership levels. Click the join button. There's more information for you, or check out the links in the description. There you also find a link to my buymeacoffee.com/silky website, where you can buy me a coffee or 2 to keep me going. It is all going towards my animals right now. I have some sick animals. I have a sick horse right now too. Yeah, thanks for doing that. Thanks for your supers. Your help is greatly appreciated. And thanks so much for watching and supporting this channel with all that you do, guys. Wait for my next update. It's really an interesting one. And in the meantime, really check out the videos here on the end screen. I see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.